Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of our Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, never press the shiny red button. System upgrade turns into a robbery in progress. One Excel workbook crashed my PC. Can you turn our smart boards into a 20-foot monitor? .NET shenanigans. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Never press the shiny red button. System upgrade turns into a robbery in progress. Back again for another tale of insanity and tech woes that dances on the border between stupidly impossible and yet somehow plausible. I was on my way to work tonight and had a pair of cop cars goes flying past me, and it reminded me of this story. This was back around early 2005-6-ish. At this time I have about 8 years of experience under my belt, and I'm pretty confident in what I know and what I don't and the difference between the two. I've installed/upgraded several network setups and phone systems by this point, and I'm fairly confident I know how to pull cables and remove the old crap that has been dry rotting for years in the ceilings and walls. This particular job was a network upgrade to replace the old network drops and landline phone switch system, and install IP phones along with a new network switch for the recent fiber upgrade they got. The network closet was a 4x4 graveyard filled with junk systems, 2 old phone punch-down panels, dead battery backups, and the current systems I was replacing. This customer was in a small strip mall area that had nice high drop ceilings, so install and removal of the old garbage was fairly easy. Cut the old junk at the top of the wall, yank it back to the closet, cut it up top, pull the loose junk away from the old systems. I get all the old crap off the wall and load it into my vehicle to scrap/recycle, and started pulling the new cables. I got all the new cables pulled and punched down out in the office. I wanted to be out of the customer's way, so I decided to set up the new phones and run cables to all the new equipment before finishing the closet. I'm crawling underneath the counters and desks organizing the system cables. My OCD couldn't let the rat nests alone, while pulling the new cables through. As I'm under the front counter, I come across a small box with a single red button. What could this be, I wonder? I asked the owner if they knew what this curiosity was, and they said they didn't know. I said it looks like a panic button to call the cops if you were getting robbed, and asked if they had a system like that. To the owner's knowledge, they did not, and I had everything out of the closet, and nothing I pulled looked like a system like that. They're usually a wall-mounted metal box that's locked with wires running through metal conduit for protection. I asked if they wanted it left or pulled, and they said pull it, so I unmounted it, yanked the wires back up through the wall, tossed a wire nut on each of the ends to be safe, coiled it up, and zip-tied it to a support beam. Obviously I had to press the big red shiny button before pulling it. It's against the law not press it. I want to say about 10 to 15 minutes pass, and I'm currently still under the last station, where the button was, tidying up cables, when I hear the familiar sound of police sirens. My first thought was, that can't be what I think it is. There was no system in the closet. The sirens get much louder, so I pop up from under the station just in time to see 2 cop cars come screeching to a halt in front of the store. Oh shit! I'm in trouble. Luckily the owner was much more curious than I was and was already at the front door. She walked outside and one of the officers came over the loudspeaker. Cop equals cop. O equals owner. Cop, don't move. Oh, okay. The second cop had gotten out of his vehicle and was standing beside it ready to draw his sidearm. Cop, who are you? We got a report of a robbery in progress at this address. Oh, I'm the owner of this business. There is no robbery going on. Who called you? At this point the first officer gets out of his vehicle and approached the owner, Cop 2 still standing at the ready. The cop and owner talk for a few minutes and finally he signals Cop 2 that it's okay. Cop 2 approaches and all three come inside. At this point I want to crawl into my tool bag and hide because I know this happened because of that damn button. Cop 1 explains that an automated system called 911 saying robbery in progress at current address, and they needed to take a look around to verify everything was cool. Cop 2 takes a look around as Cop 1 checks with dispatch. Apparently the system was calling every couple of minutes stating the same thing. I explained what most likely happened and asked if it's okay for me to trace the wire I left in the ceiling. By this time Cop 2 comes back with an all clear and Cop 1 says he will contact dispatch and let them know he's remaining on site till we can find what's making the 911 call. Cop 2 takes off and I start tracing this wire, thank God for wire tone probes. I scamper back up to the wire, hook up my tone box and try and see exactly where this wire is going. 2 ladder climbs later and I find the wire is going next door to another business, thankfully owned by the same owner, but the other business was run by her son. A half dozen ladder climbs later I find the wire running to a locked metal box in the ceiling above the network closet in the second business. Thankfully the key was hanging in the lock, I know real secure, so I pop it open and hit the kill switch. Cop 1 checks in with dispatch about 5 minutes later and they say calls have stopped. Thank God. The owner apologized for the trouble, and I do the same. I kept saying sorry the whole time I was tracing the wire. I think the cop was tired of hearing it as he verified with dispatch, asked the owner to sign some paperwork, and took off. The nightmare was over, and I asked the owner what she wanted done with the alarm system. She asked if I knew how it worked and how to reset it. I did not and said it looked like it had been here a while. I could try and find info on it, but no guarantees. She opted to just have me pull it out. As I was removing it I got curious to what phone line the system was even using. Haven been hiding in the ceiling for so long, how did it have a live number to use? So I grabbed my handy old-fashioned landline phone and dial my cell phone. Turns out it was tied into the line her son's business was using as a fax line. The system was plugged into an outlet above the ceiling. I'm guessing this was installed a while back when it was another business was at this location. Turns out the 2 offices were originally one large office, and the owner had a wall installed in between. She kept the counters on her side so the button never got found. I replaced all the loose ceiling tiles on both businesses, finished the last station I was under when we got raided, finished up all the work left in the network closet, and called it a day. It was interesting explaining why it took so long to do the call to my boss. I was branded the office criminal for about 3 weeks. Yay! One Excel workbook crashed my PC. So, I'm not tech support, I'm just a regular desk jockey. However, I'm not an idiot. I've got an A+ and a Network Plus, and had a couple of old MS certs that have expired. Since I'm one of the few people that have some tech skills, I sometimes get to fix stuff that's broken. Sometimes I fix stuff if it annoys me enough. I have a coworker who is 15 years younger than I am and has 2 college degrees that has no idea how a computer works. I got my first PC after I graduated from high school in the early 90s. I should be the old man that doesn't understand computers. Well, we're all working from home and doing our duties. I get to be backup for those duties. Simple things that are less than one person's job but easy to do. Plus, somebody has to do these type of things while people take PTO. Backup duties get handed around. Several of us cover for each other. Today, my coworker asks me to cover for her on the big client. She's had PC issues. A lot of PC issues. Her friend is coming over at lunch to figure them out. One of them is easy to diagnose. Bad inverter cable or bad inverter board itself. Her friend is coming over to figure out why it flickers and why it runs so slowly. She asks me to run the big client today. No problem. Make some support tickets if any show up, check on the current support tickets, and keep the big client informed. Keep the big client happy. So I check my folders in Outlook and download yesterday's Excel workbook. The workbook is the daily report that we send them. Sure, it's simple, but it works. Then I open the workbook. It takes 4 minutes and a GB of RAM. I have no idea why. I keep poking around trying to figure out if it's infected. Is it running some weird formula? Some crazy reference? I don't really know Excel as well as I should. I complained to her about the workbook in Teams. By this time, her friend has showed up, she's going to lunch to get her PC inspected, and I start working on this stupid Excel workbook. She comes back from lunch. She's getting a new screen, and he removed some bloatware. I ask, do you use these tables? What's a table? This workbook has 7 total sheets. 2 for current issues, and the rest are past 5 months. All months before that have been moved to a second workbook. Of course, both of them combined are too large to email, so they have to be zipped up to be sent every day. I look at the sheets and each one has a table maxed out. About 65,000 rows and the columns go to triple letters. I message the boss about this workbook. He says, actually, that's probably just the one that I made for her. She's probably still using the same one. He clearly just clicked the upper left corner and tabled the whole stupid thing. So, I go to the last 2 sheets and untable them. The file gets bigger. As I untable the 3rd sheet, Excel freezes. I watch in Task Manager as it slowly climbs up to 2.5 gigabytes of RAM. My fan sounds louder than I've ever heard it. Force reboot. Tables are pretty good at storing formatting according to the Googles. Having infinite formatting without tables is quite hard on Excel, I guess. That also explains why the file got larger. It explains why it was worse even though I was saving it in between edits. At that point, a friend of mine comes up with the simplest solution. Make a new workbook and copy/paste the data over. I'd been wrestling with this thing for hours. I'm an idiot for trying so hard. I do just as he advised. I format the cells out to 500 rows, and about 100 columns, and freeze the top row. Whole thing takes about an hour while doing my regular work. At most, this thing has 166 rows of data. This thing is so sloppy that I realize there are actually about 200 worthless columns hidden in the middle of it. In the end, she's excited that I kept her easy-to-read formatting and added back the old months. Even with the added 5 months of data, I reduced the size of the workbook from 91 megabytes to 818 kilobytes. I should know better than this. When trying to fix a problem, it really can boil down to one simple Excel workbook screwing up the whole PC. Even the smallest glitch can kill the whole system if it grows big enough and carries on long enough. Can you turn our smart boards into a 20-foot monitor? A fun one from about 9 to 10 years ago. The business I worked for not only did office equipment repair, we also offered a variety of tech solutions. One of the tech solutions I loved was Sharp brand interactive smart boards, aka a huge-ass touchpad TV/monitor. We sold a couple of these to schools and various businesses. One such business was an investment broker who had a nice mid-large sized office that included 2 conference rooms and a training room. They ended up getting 3 80-inch smart boards, one for each of the conference rooms and one for the training room, and a nice surround sound system with wireless mics for the training room. The owner's son, who I'll refer to as Jay, was their resident tech for basic computer stuff and also worked on the investment end of things. Over the course of setting everything up and testing/instructing on the new toys he and I got to talking about tech, gaming, etc., and we end up talking about how cool it would be to use the displays for gaming. I mentioned that they could get upgrade kits for the displays that would make them mobile standalone stations that didn't need a dedicated desktop hooked up and would allow them to put all of them in the conference room if they needed more than one screen and could be set as clone displays. I could see the wheels turning in his head, and he said he'd talk to his dad about getting the upgrades. Cut to 2 days later, and my boss is asking me to order the upgrade kits for all the displays. These kits included hydraulic legs on nice wheels so you could adjust the height and move the system with ease. It also had a dedicated PC mounted to the stand to run the touch displays. After about 2 weeks I went over and set up the new kits and showed the added functions. After going over everything and his father had left the room, Jay questioned me about auxiliary input on the displays, and how to set up multiple displays using a single system. I explain how to do it if his video card supports multiple displays. Jay then shows me a freshly built gaming rig he had in his office. I'm sure you all know where this is going, that had a very nice video card for the time with multiple displays outputs. I show him how to set it up after hooking everything up and give him my cell number in case he has questions for his after-hours hobby. 2 weeks later I get a call on Friday night from Jay saying he's running the multiple displays, but can't get the resolutions to look right across all 3 screens. 2 look okay, but the third throws everything off. I'm intrigued and also very curious to see this monster setup, so I drive over, only a 30-minute drive, and take a look at everything. I have to say 380 displays side by side hooked up to a gaming rig looks awesome. After some tinkering in the settings and playing with the available resolutions, I come to the conclusion that due to the sheer size of everything that we'd have to use a wide screen resolution that didn't quite go corner to corner, but still maintained a proper ratio for display. Jay is a little bummed and asks if there is anything I can think of because he wants to game on all 3 displays on the weekends and also wanted run cable through the setup to watch football. I told him I'd do some research and get back to him. I poured over a ton of different video controllers and display setup information. I was a man on a mission. I wanted this to work so much my inner geek was having a meltdown. After hunting all weekend, I finally came across a series of controllers made by Sharp that is designed to be used for wall display setups ranging from 2 up to 24 screens. It could be set to auto-adjust the output depending on what resolution you wanted, and how many displays you want to use. I gave Jay a call and told him I found a solution, but it was a bit expensive. He said he'd talk to his dad and see about getting him to foot the bill so they could watch football on the setup. His dad was a huge college football fan and Jay was using that as a selling point to get him to sign off on it. The next day we got a go-ahead to get the controller and get it set up. After it came in, I went over and installed it in the training room with Jay chomping at the bit to try it out. His dad also poked his head in once or twice to see if we had it running yet. Pretty sure he was just as excited as Jay, but was trying not to act like a little kid at Christmas. After some tinkering I had it set, and it looked good on the PC. Then we connected to cable box. Had to do some tweaks again, but got it looking real good. Almost a complete fill across the displays, and it looked amazing. Being the geek I am, I also brought the necessary connectors to hook up the audio to the surround sound system in the room. We did a quick test at low volume, and then looked up a touchdown run on the YouTube and proceeded to crank to volume almost to max. It sounded like a stadium. His dad jumps in the room with a huge grin on his face and proceeds to stand in awe of the glorious triple-wide display running football footage and hearing it through the surround sound system. He didn't know I planned on hooking it up to do that. After the clip he proceeds to yell at us to turn it down, all the while still grinning ear to ear. In total, for all the displays, hardware, setup, and extras, it cost roughly $12,000 for a very nice business system that doubled as a killer entertainment system. They definitely got their money's worth, as Jay sent me a few photos of them on the weekends after hours with their big comfy office chairs in the training room with the tables set up with a tailgate buffet and coolers as footrests. He also sent me a couple shots of him gaming, a couple racing games, which looked insane, and some shots of him playing WoW. Actually glad I did all the research for this, since I ended up doing a similar setup for an emergency response training facility that had 4 of these units. No football or gaming that time, but used for training purposes. .NET shenanigans. Background: this was a huge worldwide company, industry leader in the field, and it was basically 100% dependent on IT. There was upon a time, fairly recent, a top company that had 10 CTOs in the span of 4 years. None got fired. And this marvelous company, fully dependent on IT specialists and programmers, decided to outsource everything and not even keep a skeleton crew on board. This is where my dumbass comes in. Some middle management smart guys got together and decided that they actually need an IT department, so they hired specialists and programmers under different departments. This should have been a red flag, but I took it as an opportunity. Now back to our story. There was an old ancient cluster of servers dating back to when humanity first discovered binary. It was unmaintained for well over a year. Why, you ask? Because all outsourcing was done for desktops and laptops, not one clause-specified servers. So this ancient beast served well over 1,000 people and secured their livelihood. I take a look into the abyss, and boy do I get a chill on my back. I ask, is there a replacement and migration plan and a new cluster on the way? Of course not, why would there be one? Was there a replacement plan before the apocalypse? Well, yeah, but it was too expensive, and it got shelved. We bought all these new laptops instead. Okay, my alarm starts going off. I need to save that poor cluster before it dies. 6 horrific months later, the replacement is approved and finally we can move up from server 2003 TM. The outsourced company receive instructions to take care of the new cluster, and we have to work in tandem for a very fast migration. The first and most important in the order of business is to migrate the main database and push it on live, along with about 10 of the 300 clients. I make my case, strongly, very strongly, migrate smaller clients in the first batch, in case of problems one can quickly fall back and save everything. You can guess what management decided: migrate the largest, most important clients first. Oh boy, can we at least do them on our terms? No, the outsourcing company will take care of them. Needless to say, it was such a clusterfuck that not even one of the clients was migrated successfully. Anyway, we passed that moment. The server was live for 2 weeks, some 50 clients now enjoyed it, about 40% of the load, and the rest would follow soon. Hell, even some new and important clients were on it. When the new cluster was approved, there was a very important document drafted by some IT guru, and it said that the main database server should be configured such as the database could not be stopped by anything else than human input. This meant that any command to the server that stops the server will be ignored, be it a Windows update, software installation, software update, etc. So that they would never influence the uptime. The only way to stop the server was to first stop the database service. A second file contained details and policies on how, and especially when such operations could be performed. So here is me, Monday morning, chilling, when I get informed that the server is down. Console is outsourced, so I try to RDP in. The server is up, but I get disconnected. I try again, and again, and again, until an error pops up stating that the RDP service is not responding. I take all the info from that error and start a frenzy trying to find out a cause. Everything points out to a .NET framework update. Basically, the server is telling everyone and everything that it wants a restart. I hurry along and get this info to the company that does the outsourcing. I inform everyone that the server is stuck on a .NET issue and needs a hard restart. Turns out that the outsourcing company decided to perform a .NET update with the database running because they weren't allowed to stop it. This caused every other service on the server to stop, except for the one that it could not stop. It took 6 more hours to get the other company to restart the server.